You know, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. There are moments in life when your silence will speak louder than your presence ever could. There are people who take your time, your kindness, and your energy for granted, not because they are bad, but because they've become used to having you around. And when someone becomes used to your light, they stop noticing how brightly you shine. When people fail to value your presence, your silence teaches them the lesson your words couldn't. It's not pride, it's peace. We live in a world where everyone wants to be heard, noticed, appreciated, and validated. We put in effort after effort, thinking that maybe if we just give a little more, they'll finally see our worth. But sometimes, no matter how much you give, people stop noticing the value of your presence. It's like having a beautiful fragrance in the room. You stop sensing it after a while because you've become too used to it. That's what happens when we overextend ourselves. Our kindness becomes a routine, our efforts become invisible, and our presence starts to lose its meaning in their eyes. But here's a truth many people forget: silence is a teacher far greater than words. When you stop explaining, stop justifying, stop trying to make others understand how much you care, something magical begins to happen. The absence of your voice creates space for their reflection. The absence of your presence allows them to feel the difference between you being there and you not being there. It's not about making them miss you, it's about making them realize the energy you brought into their life, the calm, the positivity, the support, the love that they had taken for granted. Let's take a simple example from daily life. Imagine a friend who always listens to everyone, who always answers the calls, replies instantly, helps in every crisis, but rarely receives the same in return. One day, that friend decides to stop forcing connections. They step back, not out of anger, but exhaustion. Days pass. The phone is silent. The group chats move slower. The energy of the circle feels dull. Slowly, people begin to realize that something is missing. It's not the noise or the words, it's the warmth that came with that person's presence. That's the moment when absence speaks. That's when people remember what they lost, not through confrontation, but through emptiness. Silence has a spiritual power that words often fail to carry. Words can defend, argue, explain, but silence reflects. It makes the other person think, not react. In our lives, when we are constantly trying to prove our intentions, we end up draining ourselves. We explain why we are right, why we care, why we deserve appreciation. But the more we explain, the less people listen. Sometimes you must stop talking and let your calmness communicate the depth of your self-respect. Your silence becomes your boundary. It says, I am no longer available for what drains my peace. You see, self-respect doesn't always come wrapped in big gestures or bold statements. Often, it comes in the quiet decision to step back and stop giving where your energy is not valued. It comes in walking away without resentment, without the need for closure. It's saying, I choose peace over people who cannot see my worth. That's not pride. Pride screams, I'm better than you. Peace whispers, I'm better without this. In relationships, whether it's friendship, family, or love, when someone fails to value your presence, you must not punish them with anger, but remind them with silence. Because silence carries the weight of maturity. It's the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction comes from ego, response comes from awareness. When you stay silent, you give others a chance to realize on their own what you've been trying to tell them all along. And that realization is much more powerful than anything your words could have achieved. Think of the sun. It shines every day, giving warmth, light, and life. Yet many people don't appreciate it until it hides behind the clouds or disappears into the night. Only in its absence do we understand its importance. The same happens with people who give endlessly. Their presence becomes so consistent that others assume it's guaranteed. But the day they step back, even slightly, the difference becomes undeniable. The truth is, not everyone deserves constant access to your energy. Some people must feel your absence to remember your value. That's not cruelty, it's balance. It teaches others to meet you halfway, to value what you bring, and to understand that your presence is a blessing, not a right. In your personal growth journey, you will often reach moments where you must choose between explaining your worth or preserving your peace. Choose peace, because people who truly value you won't need reminders. They'll recognize your presence and cherish it naturally. But those who don't will only realize it when you stop being there. Let them. That's not manipulation. It's awareness. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've learned that care without boundaries leads to burnout. It means you've understood that your emotional energy is sacred. When you stop forcing yourself into spaces where you're not valued, you create space for divine alignment, where the right people, the right opportunities, and the right peace will naturally find you. So next time you feel unappreciated, don't shout, don't argue, don't over-explain. Just step back, be still, let your absence do what your words couldn't. Let it whisper the truth you were too tired to say. The people meant for you will feel that silence deeply and come closer with more respect. The ones who don't were never yours to begin with. And remember, silence doesn't create distance between hearts that are truly connected. It only strengthens the bond by awakening awareness. Your absence can be your greatest teacher, your most powerful message, and your most peaceful response. Sometimes, walking away quietly is the loudest way of saying, I know my worth. You can't keep pouring from a cup that no one helps to refill. Your withdrawal isn't weakness, it's wisdom. There comes a time in every person's life when they realize that giving endlessly without pause doesn't make them noble, it makes them empty. Many of us are taught that to love means to give unconditionally, to always be available, to never say no. But what we are not taught is that even unconditional love needs understanding, and even the most generous hearts need rest. You cannot serve tea from an empty cup. You cannot share warmth when your own soul is shivering. The truth is, giving continuously without being refilled doesn't sustain love, it drains it. Think about it. How often have you found yourself being the one everyone turns to? The one who listens, comforts, encourages, and supports, but when your own heart is heavy, there's silence on the other end. You keep showing up because you care. You give your time, your presence, your energy, but slowly, the weight of carrying everyone else's pain begins to dim your light. You start to feel invisible in the very spaces you help build. Yet you keep pouring, believing that someday someone will notice your emptiness. But the truth is, people rarely notice when you are running on empty until you collapse. There's a story of a candle that burned brightly every night, lighting up the whole room for everyone to see. It shone beautifully, giving warmth and brightness to all who came near it. But one night, the candle began to melt faster than usual. Its wax was running low, its flame flickered, but it kept burning because that's what it thought it was supposed to do. Give light. Eventually, it melted completely and was gone. The room that was once filled with its glow turned dark. Only then did people realize the value of its light. The lesson is simple: you can give, but you must also rest. You can shine, but you must also protect your flame. In daily life, this happens everywhere. Parents give endlessly to their children, forgetting their own dreams. Employees give their time and effort to their work, sacrificing their health and peace. Friends give emotional support to others, but rarely find anyone to lean on themselves. And when they finally step back, people say, "You've changed." But they haven't changed. They've just learned to protect their peace. Withdrawal isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that you cannot heal the world while breaking yourself. It's recognizing that real strength lies in balance, not in exhaustion. Some people confuse constant availability with kindness, but true kindness includes yourself too. Saying no sometimes doesn't make you selfish, it makes you self-aware. The universe doesn't reward those who run themselves dry. It rewards those who maintain their energy with awareness and discipline. Have you ever noticed how nature works? Even the ocean pulls back its waves before another strong tide. The sun sets each day to rise again in full glory. Trees shed their leaves not out of loss, but to grow again stronger. Everything in creation knows how to withdraw and restore. Except us, we keep pushing, giving, hustling, caring without pause. Then we wonder why we feel lost, tired, or emotionally numb. When you start pulling back from people or situations that constantly drain you, some will misunderstand. They'll say you've become distant or cold. But don't let their opinion define your peace. You're not walking away out of anger. You're walking inward towards balance. Your silence, your distance, your rest, it's not a punishment to anyone. It's a message to yourself that you deserve the same care you've been giving others. There's beauty in learning to pause. When you pause, you give your soul a moment to breathe. You listen to your inner voice, the one that gets drowned out when you're always busy fixing, helping, or explaining. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is to stop answering every call, stop showing up everywhere, and simply return to yourself. Because when your own cup is full, your love flows naturally. It's no longer forced, it's overflowing. Many people think strength is about endurance, how much you can take, how long you can keep giving. But true strength is knowing when to stop. It's knowing that rest is not laziness, it's renewal. You cannot save anyone if you are sinking yourself. You cannot lift others when you are lying flat on the ground. The moment you learn to say, "I need time to refill my energy," you become wiser, calmer, stronger. When you pull back, don't see it as disconnection, see it as divine alignment. Because when your energy is low, you attract people and experiences that drain you even more. But when your energy is restored, you attract peace, clarity, and better relationships. People who truly love you will understand your withdrawal. They respect your need to recharge. Those who don't will fade naturally, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to stay when you stop serving their comfort. So, take time for yourself without guilt. Sit in silence. Walk alone. Journal your thoughts. Meditate. Spend a day without your phone. These little acts are not selfish, they are sacred. Because your energy is your biggest asset and your peace is your most precious wealth. When you protect them, everything else in life flows more smoothly. The truth is, you cannot give from an empty heart. You cannot share joy when you've lost your own. So learn to step back, not because you're tired of caring, but because you finally understand the difference between sacrifice and self-destruction. Withdrawal isn't running away, It's coming home to yourself. And in that home, you'll find peace, clarity, and the quiet strength to give again. But this time, from a place of wholeness, not emptiness. Have you ever been in a room where you gave your best, but no one noticed? You kept showing up, giving, caring, yet it felt like your presence had lost its value. My friends, sometimes you don't need to shout, fight, or prove your worth. You just need to step back and let your absence do the talking. Because absence is not about ego, it's about energy. It's about protecting your peace, reclaiming your balance, and reminding the world that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. So today, let's talk about the power of letting them feel your absence, not to punish, but to purify your space and protect your soul. Sometimes, the quiet withdrawal of a kind soul shakes hearts more deeply than any confrontation could. We often believe that making others understand our worth requires loudness, arguments, explanations, or emotional outbursts. But the truth is, there's a power in quietness that can't be matched by any noise. Silence has its own voice. When a kind person stops speaking, when a warm soul withdraws, the absence of their energy creates a void that echoes louder than any words ever could. It is not about ego, it's about energy. When you've spent your days giving light, and suddenly that light dims, people feel it in ways they can't always explain. Imagine someone who always smiles when they greet everyone, always lends a listening ear, always chooses peace over argument. Their presence becomes a comfort to those around them. But one day, they stop trying to explain themselves, stop fighting for understanding, stop showing up in spaces where they're not valued. There's no announcement, no drama, just quiet distance. At first, people might not notice. But over time, the silence becomes uncomfortable. The room feels heavier. Conversations lack warmth. That's when realization dawns. The energy that once made everything brighter has stepped away. That's the power of quiet withdrawal. It's a strange paradox. When you are present, people may not always value you. But when you're gone, your absence teaches them your importance. When a kind person chooses silence, it's rarely because they've stopped caring. It's usually because they've been caring too much. They've spoken, explained, and given, but nothing seems to reach through. And then they realize that sometimes silence does what words cannot. It reaches the heart, not the ears. It creates space for others to reflect, to notice, to awaken. Think about relationships, friendships, or even workplaces. There's always that one person who holds the environment together, the one who encourages, supports, and listens. When that person finally stops initiating conversations, stops checking in, people feel something missing. They might not admit it, but deep down, they sense that things are no longer the same. The laughter doesn't sound as genuine, the energy feels colder. That's when they realize that presence is not measured by how loud someone is, but by how deeply they touch others, even in silence. Quiet withdrawal is not weakness. It's emotional intelligence. It's knowing that not every situation deserves your energy, not every misunderstanding needs your explanation, and not every person deserves a place in your peace. When you step back silently, you stop feeding drama and start nurturing your dignity. You give others the space to see what your noise once covered. The truth. It's like the calm after a storm. When everything finally settles, people start to see the damage words caused and the value silence holds. In daily life, there are times when you argue with someone trying to make them understand your feelings, but they keep dismissing or mocking you. You speak again, but nothing changes. Then one day, you choose silence. You no longer explain, no longer defend yourself. And suddenly something changes, not outside but within. You feel lighter. You realize that your peace was worth more than being right. That's the moment when your silence becomes strength. Because silence doesn't mean surrender, it means self control. It means you've grown beyond the need to prove anything. When a kind soul withdraws quietly, it unsettles those who once took them for granted. They start wondering, why aren't they calling anymore? Why aren't they replying? That wondering creates awareness, and awareness brings realization. This realization, though delayed, is often more powerful than any argument could have been. Because while words engage the mind, silence speaks directly to the heart. Let's take a simple example. Imagine a workplace where an employee always goes the extra mile, helping others, fixing problems, staying late. People start expecting it as normal until one day that employee stops. They still do their work, but they no longer go beyond what's required. No complaints, no arguments, just quiet professionalism. Within days, others start to notice the difference. Tasks get delayed, the usual warmth fades, and they start to appreciate what that person silently contributed all along. That's how absence becomes a teacher. In a world obsessed with noise, opinions, arguments, explanations, the quiet soul stands out. Their stillness unsettles people because it reflects something powerful: inner strength. Anyone can shout, but it takes wisdom to stay calm. Anyone can argue, but it takes awareness to withdraw peacefully. Your silence in the face of misunderstanding is not a sign of weakness, it's a reflection of your maturity. You no longer react from emotion, you respond from understanding. When you stop forcing conversations that go nowhere, stop proving your loyalty to those who doubt you, stop giving your energy where it's not appreciated, you don't lose anyone, you find yourself. You rediscover the value of your time, your energy, your presence. The more you withdraw quietly, the more you grow spiritually. Because peace begins where noise ends. So when you choose to step back, do it with calmness, not bitterness. Do it with a smile that says, I understand now. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't have to announce your boundaries. Your silence is your statement. Your absence is your answer. And when they finally notice the void your presence once filled, that will be the moment they understand. Sometimes, the softest exit leaves the deepest impact. So let your silence speak. Let your calmness be your power. You don't need to prove your worth through endless talking. When your energy is pure and your intentions are right, even your quietness will echo loudly in the hearts of those who once took you for granted. Because one day, they'll look around and realize that the peace, the kindness, the balance they once felt was you. And by then, your silence will have said everything words never could. When you detach, you're not closing your heart, you're opening space for your soul to breathe again. Most people misunderstand detachment. They think it means to stop caring, to become emotionless, or to isolate themselves from love and connection. But true detachment is none of that. It's the art of loving deeply without losing yourself in the process. It's about being present, yet peaceful. It's about caring without clinging, helping without expecting, and giving without being drained. Detachment doesn't make your heart cold. It makes your heart clear. It allows you to love purely, without fear, without control, without the desperate need for outcomes. In life, we often hold on too tightly to people, to emotions, to expectations. We hold on because we're afraid of losing what we love. But sometimes our grip becomes so tight that we suffocate the very things we want to keep. Detachment teaches you to hold life gently, like holding a butterfly. You admire its beauty, you let it rest on your hand, but you don't trap it. Because if you try to keep it forever, you'll destroy its wings. Love, peace, and relationships work the same way. When you detach, you're not giving up, you're giving freedom, both to yourself and to others. Think of a gardener. They plant seeds, water them, nurture them, but they don't pull at the plants to make them grow faster. They do their part and then they step back, allowing nature to take its course. Detachment is just like that. You put in your sincere effort, your best intentions, and then you let go of the need to control what happens next. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you trust. You trust life, you trust timing, you trust that whatever is meant for you will come, and whatever is not meant for you will gently move away. That trust is what brings peace. Let's take a simple example from everyday life. Imagine someone who constantly worries about how others perceive them. They replay conversations in their mind. They overthink every word. They feel anxious if someone doesn't respond immediately. Their mind is always busy, attached to outcomes they can't control. Now imagine the same person learning detachment. They still care about being kind and respectful, but they no longer base their peace on someone else's reaction. They understand that what others think is their business, not theirs. And suddenly, their heart feels lighter. They stop living for approval and start living from authenticity. That is the quiet freedom detachment brings. Detachment is not a wall, it's a window. It lets the light of awareness shine through. It doesn't block love, it filters pain. It teaches you that you can be connected and still calm, involved yet independent. In a relationship, detachment allows love to grow naturally without suffocating it with control. When you stop trying to fix people, change them, or make them love you a certain way, you begin to experience a purer form of connection, one based on acceptance, not attachment. We live in a world where attachment is mistaken for love. People say, "I can't live without you," as though dependence is proof of devotion. But love that depends on possession is not love, it's fear. Real love says, "I want you to be happy, even if that happiness isn't with me." That is the heart of detachment. It doesn't close doors, it opens hearts. It allows you to love without needing to own, to care without needing to control, to give without needing to receive. When you practice detachment, you stop chasing what's running away and stop clinging to what's already yours. You realize that what truly belongs to you will never need to be forced. It gives you the courage to let go gracefully when life asks you to. Because holding on to something that's leaving doesn't stop it from going. It only hurts your hands. And sometimes, by letting go, you make space for what's meant to arrive. Detachment also teaches you to respond, not react. When you are overly attached, every little thing shakes you. A harsh word, a delay, a rejection. But when you are detached, you become like a calm lake. Ripples may appear, but the depth remains still. You start to see situations as lessons, not losses. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift is spiritual maturity. In daily life, detachment can transform your peace. Suppose you're working hard for a goal, maybe a promotion, a dream project, or a relationship to succeed. You give your best, but instead of obsessing over the outcome, you stay present. You focus on what's in your control. Your effort, your attitude, your energy, you leave the rest to life. Suddenly, the pressure lifts. You still want success, but your happiness is no longer tied to it. You work with passion, but not with panic. That is detachment in action, a quiet confidence that says, whatever comes, I'll handle it with grace. Even spiritually, detachment is essential. You can pray, meditate, serve others, but if you do it with expectation, you remain restless. When you do it with surrender, you feel peace. True detachment connects you with the divine because it teaches you trust. It whispers, do your duty, but don't be bound by results. When you live this way, life becomes lighter. You stop resisting change and start flowing with it. So, when you detach, you're not running away, you're returning home to your own center. You're saying to life, I will give my best, but I will not lose myself. You're not closing your heart, you're clearing it of fear, control, and desperation. Detachment doesn't kill love, it purifies it. It makes you stronger, calmer, freer. Because when your soul can breathe, your love becomes limitless, your mind becomes peaceful, and your presence becomes powerful. And that is when you truly understand what it means to live with grace, to love, to care, to serve, and yet to remain beautifully free. When you step back, those who care will notice. Those who never did will simply fade away. And that's the clarity you need. Life has a beautiful way of showing you the truth when you stop chasing, forcing, and explaining. When you step back from trying to prove your worth, from trying to make everyone happy, or from overextending yourself for people who never meet you halfway, the truth quietly reveals itself. It's not revenge, it's not pride, it's perspective. Because distance doesn't change real connections, it only exposes fake ones. The ones who truly value you will come closer. The ones who were only comfortable taking will disappear. That disappearance is not your loss, it's your liberation. Many people spend their lives in confusion, trying to understand who really cares for them and who only benefits from their presence. But that confusion exists only because you're too close to the noise. You're too involved, too emotionally entangled, too available. The moment you take a step back, the picture becomes clearer. You start seeing who reaches out when you go silent, who checks in when you stop showing up, who values you beyond what you can give. The ones who care won't let distance turn into disappearance. They will feel your absence deeply and respond. The rest will vanish quietly, and that silence will give you the peace your constant effort never could. Think of your own life. There are people you've supported, listened to, encouraged. You've been there through their storms, but when your sky turned gray, they weren't there. You waited, hoping they'd notice your silence or your tiredness, but nothing came. And then one day, you stopped trying, you stopped explaining, you simply stepped back. Days passed, weeks maybe, and suddenly you realized something profound. Those who truly cared reached out. They sensed your distance. They felt your absence. They came forward not because you asked, but because they valued your presence. And the others, they faded away, showing you that their bond with you was never from the heart, but from convenience. Stepping back doesn't always mean walking away. It means you stop pushing energy where it's not reciprocated. You stop trying to keep connections alive that only drain your spirit. It's about letting people choose, because genuine relationships don't require constant reminders. They thrive naturally. When you step back, you allow others to show their true intentions. If they value you, they will move closer. If not, your space will stay empty, but that emptiness will soon fill with peace. There's an old saying, when you stop watering dead plants, your garden begins to bloom again. In the same way, when you stop giving your energy to one,